Hello there guys, it's me Unstable Voltage and welcome to my first impressions videos for Falling Skies the game. I got a review copy of this from Little Orbit, who are the publishers of the game, for review, and as a fan of the Falling Skies TV series, I thought I would give the game a bit of a whirl and give you guys my first impressions on it. I'm currently almost 5 hours into the game. I originally played it a little bit on a live stream and then carried on a bit more offline just to see where I could get, but I figured it was time to bring my final thoughts on this over to you guys, as well as show you a little bit of gameplay and give my opinions on what I think is wrong or right with the game. So I'm going to be covering the PC version of the game, although it is available on PlayStation 3, Xbox 360 and I believe Wii U. Now, as I said, Little Orbit are the publishers, but it's actually developed by an Australian company called Torus Games. Now, looking at their back catalogue, they have decades of experience, but mainly, it seems, with handheld ports for Nintendo handheld consoles, some mobile games, and a lot of movie tie-ins. And to be honest, taking a look through their back catalogue and the games they have produced over the last 20 years, the word shovelware does really spring to mind. Now, I always approach any game based on a popular TV or movie franchise with some skepticism and low expectations, because let's be honest, games based on TV and movie franchises usually end up being quite low budget and therefore usually end up being quite disappointing, and they're just relying on the fact that fans of the show or the movie will just go out and buy it because it is based on that particular IP. So if you don't know what Falling Skies is, it is a sci-fi series from the TNT network. If you're familiar with something like The Walking Dead, it's a little bit similar to that, only it is with aliens instead of with zombies. Basic story of the show is the Earth gets invaded by an alien race called the Shveni, wipes out most of humanity, and the show follows the shall we say, adventures of a guy called Tom Mason, who is basically leading one of the resistance cells who is trying to fight back against the alien invasion. Now, the game is a turn-based tactical combat game, which is so much like the Firaxis XCOM, I'm almost 100% certain that it's actually using the XCOM engine. There are too many similarities for it to be something completely different. In fact, a lot of it feels like they have taken the Firaxis XCOM engine and just tweaked a few numbers around, added some different assets, graphics and sounds, etc. And that is that. They've just decided they're good to go. So let's actually get into the game itself. Like I said, I am about 5 hours in at this point, but to be honest, I think I've got about as far in as I am willing to get. So as you can see, some of the graphics, like on the menu, don't look too bad. Loading times are really fast as well, which is what I like. So I'm going to be showing you some things in what is maybe a little bit of a weird order. So as this is the PC version, one of the first things that I'm going to point out is the actual menu and options. If we go into the menu here and we actually look into the options, we've got options for the audio, which gives us some individual sliders for the sound effects, music and voice. That's fair enough. We've got game settings, which is basically just the difficulty. That's all we can pick here. And we've got our controller settings, which aren't rebindable, and it's just basically a map for the settings. That is basically as far as controls go. One of the things that I do find annoying on the mouse and keyboard on the PC version, I mean, bear in mind this game is also designed for consoles, so it is designed with a controller in mind. They have actually used a lot of PC specific buttons to be able to control the game, and they've added these buttons down here for things like back and accept and things like that. However, these buttons here aren't clickable. Now, it's a mouse-driven menu because I can click on these things, but I can't click on the back button, so I then have to go to the keyboard and hit a button. Now, to select, I can hit enter, but I can also click on something. That selects it. But to go back, I have to hit escape. So that's a little bit annoying there. Now, those are all the options you actually get. There are some video options in the game which are very basic. You can set the resolution, you can set the Aspect ratio, you can set VSync on and off. You've got one choice for anti-aliasing, which is either off or FXAA. You can set the shadow quality and you can set windowed mode as well as the refresh rate. However, you can only do that in a pre-game launcher, and that pre-game launcher only appears the first time you play the game. So if you want to change any video settings after you've started playing, and this is from my experience with the Steam version, the only way to do this is to go into your Steam library, find the game, right click on it and click on the open launcher button to change the configuration. So there are a few little quirky things with the PC version that really from the offset make this game a little bit of a pain to configure. So let's have a look what we've got here. This is the sort of base menu. You get this in between every mission, and this is where you manage your soldiers and your resources. If you have played the Firaxis XCOM, it is a far cry away from what that is. There is no building of facilities here, and everything that you get to do is relatively linear and very, very straightforward. It is simplified to the max. So let's go along these buttons at the bottom just so I can show you what we have. I'm going to go across them in reverse order because that makes more sense doing it that way. So first of all, you've got your memorial, just like your memorial wall that you have in XCOM to show your dead troops. As you can see, I have no fallen heroes, and that is after about 9 or 10 missions. And would you look at that, I can't go back, I have to hit escape. You've also got your infirmary. Your infirmary is where all of your wounded troops go. As you can see, I do have a couple of wounded soldiers in here. And if I just go back, you'll also see we have 3 resources, which is medical supplies, metal, and or metal or scrap, and food. Now, these 3 resources are used for everything. So in the infirmary, if we go into upgrades, we can actually use our medical supplies to pick certain upgrades that we can make for our troops. So for example, we've got things like all healing done in the field has a 25% chance to crit, critical heals add 50% extra XP to the target. If I wanted to enable that perk, what I would have to do is spend 1,000 medical supplies, which I don't have, and it also tells me that it is instant. So as soon as I can gain 1,000 medical supplies and spend that upgrade is applied to all of my squad, and it will be then until the end of the game. Then you get things like defibrillator, which is an equipable item. As you can see, that only costs 250 medical supplies, and it takes 1 mission to produce. It's not instant. So if I want to get that, what I would have to do is select it, say that I want to research it. It's now going to take 1 mission. So if I do 1 mission and come back after the mission, I will have defibrillators. And those can be given to everyone in the squad, so you don't have to manufacture these things. This is essentially research, and once it's been researched, you have an infinite number to give to all the people in your squad who are able to carry them. It's a very similar story with the workshop. The workshop is where you basically get your weapons and ammunition. Here it basically goes on the scrap as opposed to medical supplies, and it works exactly the same way. You have a list of things that you can build or unlock. As you actually go through the list and unlock more stuff, you will get new options to populate things with. And again, you'll see that these things have a mission timer to create, and it tells you how much metal they need as well. So unlike something like XCOM, where you actually have a clock timer that runs in between the missions, everything in the research is based on the number of missions it takes to produce. So if I wanted, for example, to make something like the scope, it'll cost me 100 metal and 1 mission. So I can just click on that and it'll be ready after the next mission. But everybody will be able to use it. Now, one thing that does annoy me about some of these upgrades is that they don't tell you an awful lot about what they do. All of my guys have the ability to carry a pistol already. They already have basic pistols. Now I've got the option to build a 9mm pistol. Now, in the description, it says quality construction ensures that this is a solid and dependable sidearm suitable for most combat situations. It doesn't give me any statistics or tell me in what way it is better than the standard pistol that my other guys are already using. So why should I bother using it? There are also quite a lot of different armors that you can produce in the game. I've also already made a couple of different armors. This is the Shabby Combat Vest. It tells me it's medium armor, but it doesn't tell me the armor rating it gives me or what it basically does for me. Now, once you've researched it and you can give it to all of your troops, then you can actually get some details, but you want to know what this stuff does before you build it. rapid fire assault rifle. Can short rapid burst, reasonably good damage and accuracy. Okay, so that is telling me that it can do burst fire, whereas the standard rifle that my guys are already using can't do burst fire. But it's telling me that it's reasonably good damage and accuracy. It's not giving me numbers. A reliable, these surefire slugs, a reliable solution when you need to hit the target and hit it hard, but again, it doesn't really tell me what it does. The scope. A crude scope reconstructed from salvage parts. It's a little bent and battered, but it works. What does it do? I'm assuming from XCOM it just increases accuracy, but it's not telling me how much it increases my accuracy by. It's not telling me what weapons it can be used with or what classes of soldier can use it. So I feel that it's a little bit vague in some of its descriptions. Let's go ahead and get that produced anyway. That will be ready at the end of the mission. And again, I can't actually go back. So we've also got our armory. Your armory is where you assign all of your troops. You've got 3 things you can do here. Upgrades basically cost food as a resource, and they allow you to do things such as increase your squad size. Initially, your squad size is limited to a squad of 4. But then you can get an upgrade to bring it up to 5, and then another upgrade to bring it up to 6. And there's also this fresh meat thing, which allows you to increase your soldier pool from 12 to 25. I'm also assuming there are probably some more options that unlock as the game goes on, but don't quote me on that because there might not be. I haven't found out. You can recruit units, so if you need to bolster your army, you usually get a choice of 4, and if you've got enough food to hire more people, you can. I don't have any volunteers available for recruiting at the moment, and that's because my squad roster is currently full. I have the full 12 of 12 here. Now, as you can see, the various different people that you have, they do have levels and they do have classes. Now, one thing that annoys me here, you've got these little buttons to go up and down, which I can click with the mouse, but the scroll wheel doesn't work, which is a little bit of a shame. So everyone starts off as a recruit, and once they've done one mission and get upgraded to level 2, they become a specific class. Now, so far, I've only seen 4 classes in the entire game. Oh, is that 5 classes? 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, 4 classes is all I've seen in the entire game. You've got fighters, who are basically your all-round assault rifle wielding sort of combat specialists. You've got your scouts, who are essentially your snipers. You've got your spite kids, who tend to be better at, they have a lot of movement and they tend to be good at melee combat. And then you have your berserkers, who are basically your heavy weapons guys. They have rocket launchers and they have LMGs and stuff like that. Those are the only 4 classes that I've actually seen. Now, you can go into your individual soldiers and you can customize them. You can change their appearance, you can change their name. You've only got some very basic settings like hair color and skin color and things like that. Not exactly an awful lot to go through. Changing the clothing, by the way, just seems to change the color, as the actual clothing look is based very much on the class of the unit as opposed to anything else. So you can usually tell class apart by what they're actually wearing. Now, while we're looking at this, the character models in this game aren't particularly great. In this particular instance, it's not too bad because this person we're looking at is a random squad member. He's not actually a member of the main cast. Now, the characters in this game who are members from the show, who are characters from the show, they look close enough to them to actually allow you to tell who they're supposed to be, but the quality is still generally bad. And also, one thing you will find if you ever see anybody talking, the facial animation and the lip sync is actually pretty terrible, but that's something that I will cover later on in the video. You can also choose what equipment you give them, but again, you can do that at the beginning of a mission. So as you can see, if we look between the tattered vest and the light vest, it does tell me that the tattered vest gives me a defense of 50 and the light vest gives me a defense of 80. But you wouldn't find that out from the light vest until you'd actually managed to produce it. And once you've researched it, like I said, you can give it to anybody because you have an infinite number. So that's how you customize your gear for your soldier. You've also got the list of skills, which levels up as they do. And again, this works very much the same way as it would in XCOM. At level 2, they get a single ability, which defines their class. Levels 3, 4, and 5, you get a choice between 2 different abilities. Level 6, it's a single ability, and then obviously 7, 8, and 9, you get a choice, and up to max level, where it's a single ability. Now, one thing I will say, and again, especially if you have played the original XCOM, the fighter is the only class that gets the cover area ability. Now in XCOM that is basically the Overwatch ability. It's an ability that allows you to take a reaction shot on your turn when the bad guys are moving. Now that was a pivotal point to success in the XCOM game, and it's a little bit sad to see that only one class has it here. But there are some other changes which do kind of balance things out. We could also dismiss this guy if we wanted to. So let's get back out of that. And that's pretty much everything covered in the armory. So we have our war room. This is where we pick our missions. And there are two things that we can actually do in the war room. Here you can see actually some characters from the main show. And I'm sad to say that my memory is completely going on me at the moment and I'm forgetting everybody's name. But this guy, he's from the show. He actually looks a little bit how he's supposed to as well, as does the blonde girl whose name has just totally escaped me. Tom Mason here, however, you can tell it's supposed to be Tom Mason simply because he's got dark hair and a beard, but it doesn't look amazingly like Tom Mason. I'll show you some of the cutscenes later on because there's a specific reason why I can't show you any cutscenes now, which I'm about to explain. But first of all, one of the two things you can do here in the war room is a dispatch mission, where basically what you do is you pick a member of your squad. I think what we'll do is we'll select someone who is a rookie. So we'll pick a random rookie in this instance. And basically what you do is you send them out on a dispatch mission. They'll be available until the mission is completed, which is usually 1 mission's time. And they return with resources and experience if they are successful. So basically you pick somebody and you go select unit and dispatch. They are now sent off on a dispatch mission. So what will happen is when I do the next squad mission, when I come back after the mission, the person that I've sent off on the dispatch will either come back unsuccessful and they'll be wounded and in the infirmary for a few days, or they will be successful and they will come back and they will have gained some experience and they will bring some more resources, food, metal and medical supplies. So it's a good way to increase the XP of your soldiers one at a time if you're not bringing all of your soldiers on the mission. So let's go into the squad missions. This is the main meat and bones of the game where you get to select your missions. As you can see, we have a choice of 3 different missions here. Now, if you get a yellow circle like these ones, it's a sort of a side mission. It doesn't really progress the story on anymore, and these are just filler missions. Now, if you get a red circle, that is a story mission. Now, the very first mission in the game is a tutorial mission, and it is a story mission. And the second mission in the game is also a story mission. Since then, I have done another 5 or 6 missions, maybe even more than that, and I haven't had a single story mission available. And in fact, these missions are randomly generated and change after every mission you complete. The problem is, you often end up getting the same mission several times around. I don't think one of these I've had before, however, I've done several missions where the same things pop up. So you usually get a choice of between 3 and 5 different missions. If you click on each one, it will tell you the rewards that you get that you will get if you complete it, and it also tells you the types of enemy forces that you are likely to encounter on that mission. It also gives you a little bit of a brief about what you need to do. There are a few different mission types. Not every mission comes down to just find and kill all enemy forces. Some of them require you to escort someone to an extraction zone, and you only have to get them to the extraction zone. Once you do, that's it, it's mission over. Some of them require you to rescue a certain number of people on the map, or to pick up a certain number of objects on the map, and once those things have been done, the mission automatically ends and you don't need to go around and kill the remaining aliens. So, what have we got here? Push out entirely. I think this is to just kill something. We've got skitters and crawlers on this. So let's have a look at one that might have all 3 enemy types on. Because so far in the game, these are the only 3 enemy types I've encountered. The skitters, the crawlies, who appeared for like 1 episode in the entire 4 seasons of the show, and the harnessed humans. So we get to pick our squad. I did have a spiked kid, but he's been injured on an ASP mission. It's not very often I ever get people who are injured, I will be quite honest. So it's, even though this is on the medium difficulty level, let's bring all these people along. Let's just make sure you've got the right armor. Yep, everyone appears to have the right gear. Are you using the better slugs? No, you're not. Let's give you the better slugs. And you can, of course, use Q and E to go through this. Again, we've got these. We've got a mouse-driven menu, but but we've got to use keyboard controls to go backwards and forwards between the units because the mouse control doesn't work here, which is a little bit annoying. So let's go ahead and show you a mission. I'm going to go and start mission. I probably won't play it all the way through, but hopefully I'll be able to do enough to actually show you how the combat works. As I said,
kill us some cooties.
Loading screens are actually very, very quick. We have an objective here. If I just hit tab, place explosive charges on the 3 harness tanks. So the first thing you're going to notice is it is very much like the Firaxis XCOM. We can rotate the camera around with Q and E. It's actually quite smooth. We can adjust the level of the terrain because you can actually climb up on top of buildings and things like that. Now, unlike XCOM, instead of it actually having sort of square or rectangular maps, the boundaries for the maps on this game can actually be dynamic. So as you can see here, we don't have square rooms. So it does make things a little bit interesting. So you'll see we have our 5 soldiers here. We've got our interface along the bottom. Each of our 5 soldiers has their primary weapon and a secondary weapon. And we can skip between our soldiers. Again, mouse control does actually work here, but we can also do it with the Z and C keys. And along the bottom here, we've got all of the individual controls we have for our troops. Now, all of our troops have 2 action points, like they have in XCOM. If I select one of them, you'll see 2 different coloured lines on the floor. There's the blue line, which is the maximum distance they can move in the with their first action point, and there's the yellow line, which is the maximum distance they could make if they were to dash, which would use both of their action points. So you want to avoid dashing as much as you can because you don't want to accidentally trigger any alien groups. You'll also see these little shields that are appearing on the walls. They actually show you where you would get cover. A hollow shield means you would get half cover from that direction, and a full shield means you would get full cover from that direction. Now, if we actually have a look around on the map, one thing you are going to notice is you will occasionally see these little blue hands. These are the objectives, so we've got to go and blow something up. So that's instantly telling me where it is. It's over in the fog of war, but I can actually see where I have to go without actually having a map. There's another one over here as well. So you can see that the maps are actually quite large. So let us start moving people forward slightly.
We're not alone.
And we have triggered our first alien. Now, one thing that I will say in this game is, even though I've already said that the character models aren't particularly good, the actual quality of the alien character models is actually spot on. I mean, the skitters do really look like the skitters from the show. They've got the aliens right, but they seem to have struggled a little bit with the human characters. So this guy's already taken one of his movement actions. I'm going to give him, put him on cover area, which is Overwatch, for his second action, which means if that alien was to move into his line of sight, he will get a free shot. Unfortunately, I can't do the same thing with my other soldiers, but I am going to put some people into a better position to take a shot on the next turn. And I'm going to put them on to defend to lower their hit chance. Now, the purpose of having cover, it means it's harder for you to be shot. And the purpose of defending also means it reduces your chance to be shot. However,
Roger that.
The 3 alien types that I've encountered so far in the game, which are the skitters, the crawlies, and the harnessed humans, only the harnessed humans have guns. Now, they do have quite a lot of mobility, they do move quite quickly, however, they generally tend to be a really bad shot. Most of your damage is going to come from skitters or crawlies that do melee damage, which means cover makes absolutely no difference whatsoever. Now, these things will come up and hit you, and normally it will cause you to bleed. You can stem bleeding with bandages, but the thing is you only bleed out 5 health per turn, per bleed, and most of your soldiers have like 100 health or more, so you can actually survive quite a lot of turns after you bleed out, and you can usually finish a mission if you're bleeding, if you're quick enough, even if you don't have any bandages. So I've moved everyone into a position. I'm just going to put everyone on defend. Then the aliens will get their turn. This skitter will probably come towards us, and it does. It'll trigger the reaction fire from our fighter. Now, he's probably not going to get to kill it. In fact, he didn't do much damage to it at all. Now, it may get close enough to do some damage. In fact, it will do.
Need to stop the bleeding.
So there we go. It's done 30 damage to us there. So this is another thing that you will notice that is a little bit different to the XCOM game, is all your soldiers would have like 3, 4, 5, 6 hit points, and damage would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hit points. Whereas here we're actually using much bigger numbers. I mean, it's 6 of one and half dozen of the other. It doesn't really make a lot of difference, but it does make it look like you have a lot more health. But we are bleeding out, which means we will now lose 5 health per turn here. So we can go ahead and take a shot. We've got a 100% chance to hit. Now, this is actually going to be our first action, so we're going to fire.
That's a hit.
We actually do manage to hit, and not enough damage to kill. But we still have a second action, and we can fire again. So, we've taken our second action and fired. Got a hit, still not enough to kill. So, let's take somebody else who has a shot. We're going to take our sniper here. She has an 81% chance to hit. Let's take the shot. So, the kill cam can be a little bit bugged from time to time because the kill cam often focuses on the person taking the shot and you don't actually see the death of the enemy until it's already laying on the floor. Now, one thing that has differed from XCOM, as you can see what we've done here, we've actually taken a shot with our sniper as her first action, but we are still then able to move her, and this is where the game does differ from XCOM. In XCOM, if you actually take an aggressive action, i.e. if you fire or throw a grenade, that actually consumes both of your actions. If you've already used one action to move, you can still fire or throw a grenade, but firing or throwing a grenade actually uses up your remaining action points, with the exception of a couple of classes who have specific unique abilities. That's not the case on Falling Skies, the game. Your soldiers can basically use their 2 actions in any way they wish. They can fire twice, they can move twice, they can move and fire, they can fire and move. So there's no limitation there, which is actually quite nice because that does open up a few more tactical abilities. So, for example, you can shoot at an alien and then withdraw if you are unsuccessful.
Really?
So, like I said, I'm not going to play through this mission very far, but I am just going to move a few people up, see if we can find some more aliens. Now, I have been playing on medium difficulty. I haven't lost a single soldier yet. There have been 2 missions where a soldier has been reduced to 0 health in the mission. And when that actually happens, they have, or so far, both times it's happened to me, they had 5 turns before they bleed out. And apparently, if you can get to them with a defibrillator before the 5 turns runs out, you can essentially stabilize them and save them. Now, the other way of doing it, of course, is just to complete the mission within the 5 turns, because if you can complete the mission, they will survive anyway. And I haven't actually lost anybody because of that. In fact, even though I get hit and take damage often, I very, very rarely get into a critical condition. I'm going to move this guy around here, because one of his abilities is to use a bandage. He's carrying some, so I can use the bandages on this guy. It won't restore his health, but it will stop him from bleeding out. So if you actually have a look on the textures of the walls when we get close to things like that, I mean, the textures do look particularly shabby up close. That's not really a bad thing because you only really see them up close when you are in the sort of kill cams and things like that. Some of the objects are definitely more detailed than others. The game is always going to look a little bit sort of brown and blue and grey. I mean, it is supposed to be post-apocalyptic, and it does look quite a lot like the way that the show does. So that is completely understandable. I'm not going to argue that the game isn't bright enough or colourful enough or has enough variety. In fact, this particular tile set, of course, we're in some sort of abandoned building. I think it's like a hospital or something like that. We've also got outdoor sections in sort of woodland and forest. We've also got outdoor sections in things like industrial areas, warehouses, abandoned factories. So there is quite a bit of variety to the various different layouts. Some of the graphics in some areas do look a little bit strange, like this broken floor here. Let's just go ahead and just end with everybody here.
Around.
So, like I said, if you have played XCOM, you'll recognise that the combat method is exactly the same as it is there, and it's so similar. They must be using the XCOM engine. I can't believe I find it impossible to believe that this is anything other than the Firaxis XCOM engine with a different coat of paint. Now, the voice acting in this game is a mixed bag. Some of the characters from the actual show do have the actual actors from the show doing their voices, which is really nice. But a lot of the people that you get to play on missions with, like these people here, are just generic random soldiers. And the voice quality is a mixed bag.
I'm there.
So we'll just open this door and then I'll move on to the next point that I want to talk about.
Consider it done. We're not alone.
There we go. We've activated something there, and that is another skitter. So we haven't even been able to see any of the
Let's do this.
Harnessed humans or the crawlies at this point.
On it.
didn't quite go where I wanted to there. I was aiming for next to cover. But once again, the cover really doesn't matter because, as I've said before, when you're up against melee-based aliens, cover means absolutely nothing to you.
Nothing's getting through here.
I suppose we could move you out over here. I'm only really looking for some... Oh, no, that door is sealed. I guess we could go over this way next turn. So let's just end this turn.
When does the fun part start?
And we get our reaction shot.
It's all about targeting.
So you do have a variety of different weapons in the game. Different classes have different weapons that they can use. You've also got a rocket launcher which can be fired from the heavy. Well, we've got two heavies here. You've got the LMG, so we can fire the LMG. 46% chance to hit because it's behind cover. We do actually manage to get a hit there. And we could take a second hit if we wanted.
Damn,
and actually missed that time around. You do also have grenades as an option. Various people can carry grenades. This guy has a flashbang, which actually will disorientate a target, which basically means it can't do anything for a single turn. Some people also carry... Oh, let's just unselect you. Some people also carry high explosive grenades, which obviously, as the name suggests, blows things up. So you can kill things like that. So there is, even at the early stages of the game, a relatively good choice of equipment. You can see there one of the things that we need to go and activate. I'm just going to select my scout here and just go through this door just because I want to see what's in the other room. See if we can find some more alien types. And we haven't. If I go through here, I'll probably activate something. There's bound to be an alien in there. In fact, we've activated something there. It's another skitter.
Over there.
And it's another skitter. Now, what you will find is if you go near bodies, if we go near that body, it'll probably spawn some of the crawlies, although the crawlies aren't always a major problem. But, yeah, the combat is relatively unvaried at this point. All I'd need to do to activate that is to go and stand next to it and press space, and we would plant one of the bombs. So, let me quit out of this and go back to the main game menu. So, we are back to the main menu. So, one thing that I find very important if you're going to make a game that is based on a movie or TV tie-in is that it has to have a decent story. And the problem that I have with this game so far is, other than the first tutorial mission, which you can't skip even if you've done it before, is the first and second missions are story missions with characters from the show, and then all the rest of the missions that I've played so far have ended up being these generic randomly generated side missions with random characters who have nothing whatsoever to do with the show. And I had such high hopes on the first and second mission because I thought, oh great, they've got the actual actors in, they're playing the characters from the show, you actually get to play as the characters from the show, take them around as part of your squad. And I thought it was going to be really involved story. And then when I started to get to these sort of side missions, I thought, well, okay, they've got to put a few side quests in here. But you do side quest after side quest after side quest. And what happens is every time you complete one, you get another set of randomly generated side quests, some of which are the same as the ones you've already done. And it's only 2, 3 or 4 missions in before you are already repeating the same missions over and over again. Now, the maps do change around. So I did actually test it out on a couple of occasions to make sure you weren't playing exactly the same map. The maps aren't randomly generated, much the same way as in the Firaxis XCOM. They are pre-built, but there is a map pool, so you're not always going to play the same missions on the same map. But what I did want to do is go into a new game, just so I could show you guys the quality of the cutscenes and the voice acting. And I also wanted to show you something on one of the other map types, one of the other tile sets that is something I find important. So let's go in and start off a new game. And we will get the cutscene for this one as well. So I'll let you guys watch that.
Three years ago, the Earth was invaded by an extraterrestrial race called the Ishveni, and the fate of the planet was changed forever. The Ishveni have been conquering worlds for a millennia, slaughtering countless races and enslaving the planet's most valuable resources, the children. Left too long in Ishveni hands, they are transformed into something else, something inhuman. With so few survivors left on Earth, the Ishveni expected the human race to surrender. But we fought back. With the help of our alien allies, the Volm, we have better, more powerful weapons, and a new sense of hope. We can win our planet back, but only if we stick together. Scouts report the Ishveni are building some sort of alien device inside that shopping center, which means we're not alone out here. We better find some cover.
So, as you can see from the opening cutscene there, it does actually have Tom Mason, providing Tom Mason's voice there. So, it's we do actually have actors from the show, and you can tell who the characters are meant to be. But you will have noticed that the aliens in the cutscene, the Skitters, the mechs, the Volm, look really, really good. However, the human characters, whether it's the actual humans or the harnessed humans, there's something about them that doesn't quite look right. You'll also notice that even though the characters from, or the actors from the show do a very good job in some of the cutscenes, some of the voice acting that's actually used within the missions can often be a little bit jarring, because you might be a good actor, but that doesn't necessarily mean you are a good voice actor. It's a very, very different environment to try and act in, and sometimes it does come across. So if we can try and listen to a few of Tom Mason's unit box as we move him around the map.
You got it.
Now, one problem that we do have here is that this tutorial mission, which cannot be skipped, is going to be the same every single time, and I'm not going to go through the whole thing. So what I'll do is I will cut this out and show you the next mission and the next cutscene, which is what I think I should do.
On my way.
So I'm going to make a small cut here, and I am going to come back with the next cutscene and the second and only other story mission I have played.
Heard the fish heads were found tinkering again at the local mall. What was it this time, huh? An interstellar soda machine?
It looked like some sort of shortwave radio tracker.
A tracker?
You think they've discovered us?
The device was definitely tracking our communications. I think we shut it down before they could pass on our coordinates.
But you can't be sure now, can you? Which means cooties and mechs could be storming our castle any second now.
What I mean is, with Weaver and the others away, we can't afford to take any chances, so be on guard.
Heard.
So that was the cutscene after the tutorial mission, and as you can tell, the voice acting is a little bit of a mixed bag, and the facial animations and the lip sync is actually quite terrible. Now, what I want to do at this point is get out of here and just go along to the next mission that is available, just to show you guys how this mission looks. So as you can see, this is a story mission. This is one of the red story missions, and this is literally the last story mission that you get to do before you go on to all of those random generic rinse and repeat missions. But I just wanted to show you this one because of the tile set. So this is the sort of forest woodland tile set, which is sort of similar to some of the tile sets that you get on XCOM. But one thing that I find about this particular tile set is it is very messy and very cluttered. The textures of the trees is relatively low resolution. Some of these bigger trees aren't too bad when they're up close to the camera, but a lot of the foliage, I mean, I run on a fairly high spec machine, and this is with the limited graphic settings up as high as they can go. And the only thing you can really do change on the quality of the graphics is the shadow settings. There's no option for texture resolution or graphics quality or rendering or anything like that. This is literally all that you get. And as you can see, a lot of the textures do look quite basic, quite bland, and quite flat and washed out. But the map just looks so cluttered. It's very, very difficult in some of these places to actually tell. So if I put the cursor here, how many of these cover shields pop up? It makes it very, very difficult to actually tell where the cover is and where exactly my character would be placed. So it does become a little bit cluttered in some respects. So my final thoughts on this game basically are, it's clearly a very budget game, much like you would expect from most games that are based on TV and movie franchises. The graphics are mediocre to say the least. The sound design is actually quite poor. All of the weapon sounds and sound effects, even the alien sounds, are quite bad in comparison to something like XCOM, where it's been done very, very well. As I've already said, the voice acting is a mixed bag. It's a little bit of fan service that they have got the original cast in to voice their characters, but because there doesn't appear to be that many story missions, and most of it is just generic random generated missions with random sort of characters that aren't part of the franchise, it does make you feel very removed from the story. Now, what I would normally say to people who may be looking at a game based on a TV show or a movie is that if you like the movie enough and you like the TV show enough, you might still want to get the game anyway, because just the fact that you're playing the game based on that show or movie might be enough for you, and you might get a lot of enjoyment out of that, which is fine. I've done it myself. I've played some games that have been classed as particularly bad, but I've enjoyed them because it's a tie-in and I enjoyed playing the characters from that particular show or movie. However, I think the way that they've sort of done this game is they've given you a very generic, mediocre game. They've thrown in a handful of story missions here and there, and a handful of spots from characters from the show, just to try and stitch it to the actual show. But there isn't all that much there. What I would say is, if you want a game that's based around this tactical squad combat, I would just go and get the Firaxis XCOM. It's a better game, it looks a lot better, it's got higher production values, it's high quality all around. It's been around a lot longer, so it's actually got quite a lot of mods and things that make it even better, as well as a couple of expansions. And even with all that, it is cheaper. Currently on Steam, for the PC version at least, Falling Skies the game is retailing at £30, which I believe is about $44 US. So obviously it's quite a high price. It's almost a full price title that you'd pay for a AAA game, whereas you can go and pick up XCOM for something like about £20, which is about $30, something like that. So much better value. A little bit of a shame, because I do like the Falling Skies show, and I was actually and I like XCOM, so I was actually hoping the game was going to be better than it was. But as I said at the start of this video, I do go into games based on these franchises with low expectations, and this is exactly the reason why. I can't even recommend it on the fact that it is a Falling Skies game, because it just feels like it is a generic tactical squad-based shooter, and they've just thrown in little bits and pieces like the aliens and some of the actors just to try and tie it to the show. So I would save your money if I were you, and who knows, maybe in the future we will actually start to see some TV and movie franchises that aren't shovelware. So thanks a lot for watching, guys. I hope you found this video informative, and I'll see you next time. Until then, goodbye for now.